This just in, the body of a transgender woman has been found in the alley on Orange Blossom Trail in Church Street.
Lord God, no, no! People with mental illness, various racial and ethnic groups, and gay and lesbian individuals. Gay individual civil rights versus civil rights, and same-gender marriages.
Listen, I know that saying he is not gay friendly. He's gonna lose it.
Hello, welcome to Affirming Love Podcast, where we are acknowledging, announcing, confirming, encouraging, and upholding love for LGBTQ plus individuals and allies. I am your host, Laverne Simpson, advocate, leader, and member of the LGBTQ plus community. CEO of Creative and Spiritual Resolutions, where I'm a spirit guide and spirit healer. Writer, director, and producer of Love Simpson Creations, theatrical productions, as well as founder, former leader, and wedding officiant of Affirming Love Ministries, a radically inclusive ministry for LGBTQ plus individuals and allies. Each week on Affirming Love Podcast, we will be breaking down real conversations about beliefs, relationships, entrepreneurship, leadership, personal development, and growth. Welcome to Affirming Love Podcast. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the very first episode of Affirming Love Podcast, where I am your host, Laverne Simpson, advocate, leader, and member of the LGBTQ plus community. Since this is our very first episode of coming out as a podcast, I thought what better subject to talk about than some coming out stories. So our first series will be some coming out stories, the pros and cons, ins and outs of coming out as LGBTQ plus individual. We'll talk to some members of the communities, family, friends, and allies. We're going to kick off this first one, acknowledging someone who said at the age of 7, they realized that they like same gender, but because of the way they were brought up, they dare come out. Today we are acknowledging Laverne Simpson. That's right, y'all. Me, your host. I thought I'd kick it off and we talk about some things about coming out of the closet. So I do remember at the age of 7 that I liked little girls. But I was raised in the Baptist church under Christianity. And listen, no, that was an abomination. You do not do that. So even being as young as I was, it wasn't about sex, y'all. I was 7 years old. I didn't know anything about sex. I just knew that I liked the softness, the gentleness of a little girl. I thought little girls were pretty. I was a tomboy coming up, you know. I always loved being out in the street playing basketball with the boys, playing in the dirt. Child, listen, I remember when my mama got us dressed one Easter Sunday. I was so cute. She had me in this little frilly yellow dress with the cute little white stockings and the little ruffles on the booty, baby. And I had my patent leather shoes on. I ran outside because in the back of our house, we had this shed. And me got my clothes on, got dressed and everything, go run outside and slide down the back of the shed and rip my stockings. I'll never forget that. My mama was so mad. But anyway, I was always rough coming up. I was a kid, but I knew it was something about little girls. I don't know. It wasn't a sexual thing. I just liked their beauty. I thought they were soft. I felt like somebody had to take care of them, right? Somebody needed to protect these little girls, at least the ones that I liked. So, yeah, I can remember that we had one lesbian in our neighborhood, and her name was Gretchen. Baby, they would talk about her like a dog. So coming out was no, you know, not only being raised in the Baptist church, but also hearing all the stories that, were talked about with Gretchen. And then I had a cousin, a male cousin, you know, if you got gaydar, you gonna know he gay. You could tell. He was a little flamboyant. Nobody really ever talked about it, but I knew. I guessed, I wondered, all of that good stuff. I was curious, right? You're curious. When you're curious, then your eyes is open, your ears open, you paying attention. You're like, what's going on with that person? But anyway, that's what it was like for me. I was raised with a mother and a father. And it was me and my sister, my oldest sister, just the two of us. My parents were, traditional. My dad wasn't too much in the church, but my mom was. We were candy stripes as little girls. I sang in the choir. I was a lead singer in the youth choir. And then as I got older, I was a part of the adult choir, of course, and I sang there. But my life just didn't allow for me to come out. It just didn't, some people have families and situations where, they can just be there. Some of these little girls walk around and they wearing basketball shorts and t-shirts and been doing this since day one. I know a young lady that went to school with us that was always a tomboy, but I don't think she ended up being a lesbian. But, she played basketball. She was a tomboy, always wore T-shirts, basketball shorts, always playing ball with the boys, hooping or whatever. For me, with my family, no. There was no, it's okay to be a girl and act like a boy. So I battled for nearly 20 years with sexuality. I came out at the age of 27. I battled with my sexuality. I remember many a days praying because, I've always been just a spiritual individual. And I remember many a days praying and, asking God, why do I feel this way? Or, take it away from me, that type of thing. But that didn't happen. Over the years, it just pretty much grew. But I tried and I tried and I tried to be traditional as my parents had raised me. I had boyfriends. I think I had my first boyfriend when I was little in the 6th grade. I called myself having a boyfriend. But you don't know nothing about no boyfriend then. But I did date guys coming up, tried to live traditional. I had my first child at the age of 18. It just seemed like as time went on and years were going by, it's like, no, you are not coming out no closet, right? You're going to try to do this traditional thing. So I found myself dating. And I don't know, my choice of men were not, I guess, the best. I did have a couple of great boyfriends back then. But whatever the case was, it didn't work. It probably wasn't going to never work anyway because, I am who I am. But my first daughter, me and her father didn't work out, which was fine because I really thought back then, like, I just, I'm going to take care of my own kid. I'm okay with being pregnant because I can't make no babies. So since I can't make no babies, then I'm going to have my own babies. Because I couldn't make no babies. It was left up to me, child. Probably have all kind of kids all across the world. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I figured, oh, well, I got me a baby. I'm pregnant. That's fine. Cool. I'm going to raise my kid. No problem. I went on to have my second child at the age of 21. Just coming up, just trying to, live that traditional life. I was the last of my friends to have sex growing up because I really wasn't into it, but I felt like it was something that I was supposed to do, that I had to do, So eventually, of course, I tried it. Whatever, had my second daughter, and that relationship didn't go well. I have some beautiful children now out of the relationship, so I'm not mad about that at all. And then my last child, I have a son. He was my boy, and I was really excited to be a boy mom at the time. And his dad is the one that was my boyfriend when I was in the 6th grade. So I ended up dating his dad more than once throughout my life. He was my 6th grade little boyfriend, and he was 2 years older than me. And then I remember again in the 9th grade where we had broke up, in the 6th grade. Then in the 9th grade, we were back together, broke up again. He was a whore, whatever. Those of y'all who know him, you know who I'm talking about, and you know I ain't lying, so whatever. He was a whore. And then I got back with him again, I think my senior year of high school. And then, of course, he was out of school by that time because he was 2 years older than me. He had gone to the military and then turned around and came back. And so at the age of 23, 24, I went through some domestic violence. I made some not so good choices, being spiteful. Dated this guy that was initially talking to my childhood best friend. We had gone through a lot of things with each other or whatever, but anyway, this dude was just getting out of jail. I didn't know him, didn't want him, but he had come over to visit my best friend, and we lived up and down from each other, lived in the same apartment building, but I lived upstairs, she lived downstairs. So when he came over to visit her, she was going to do laundry. And so I told him, I said, well, you can come in and, sit down and wait for her and, until she gets back. And he was like, yeah, I know who you are, this and that, And then he started telling me my life story. He started telling me some personal things. I'm like, wow, she done shared all of this with this dude that I don't even know. Like, why would she share my personal business with this man? Well, anyway, she came back from the laundromat, came upstairs and knocked on my door and started going off about some crazy stuff, about if I wanted him or whatever. Girl, I didn't want that man, but me being spiteful, I figured I must show her, I'll show her, right? I'm going to prove it to you. If I wanted him, I could have him. Stupid. So I did. I dealt with the guy. It was not a very good situation at all. It ended me up in domestic violence, which was really hurtful. My 5 and 3-year-old daughters were with me at the time. I didn't have my son back then. So my daughters had to actually go through that domestic violence situation with me. It led me to drug addiction. But I prayed. Like I said, I'm a spiritual person. And I just remember telling God that if he would get me out of that situation, I promised I would never go back. And so I never went to rehab or anything like that. But I'm grateful for the experience because without it, I wouldn't be able to minister to people who deal with or have dealt with or are dealing with drug addiction. So I take everything that I've gone through in my life as lessons, not just for me, but for me to be able to share with someone else. You can't help somebody get through something you ain't never been through. And so, yeah, it happened. After the domestic violence, my high school boyfriend came back into my life. He found out about the domestic violence. I hadn't had my son at this time. It was just the girls. They were 5 and 3. And so, like a big dummy, not knowing back then, I got back with him, right? Oh, I'm going to take care of you. I want my world to revolve around you and them girls. And I'm sorry you went through that. And, don't let me catch this dude or this, that, and the third, right? Whatever. So I had prosecuted the guy, and he did end up going to jail, I think for 3 years. For the domestic violence, it was a very horrible situation. Some people know my story. Some people know my testimony. I call it my testimony because one day I was looking in the mirror and I saw my face twitch. And I was like, what the hell? Oh no. I never realized that I had lost so much weight. I never realized what I was looking like in the streets. I felt like I was a functional addict. So, I didn't sell my body. I wasn't in the streets doing nasty stuff. I worked. I would make sure my bills were paid. I would make sure that food was on the table for the girls. And then, I would spend my spare money on buying rocks. One day I caught him in the bathroom smoking, and the scent, it was something about it. It was like curiosity kills the cat. It's like, what is that? Or whatever. Stupid. At the time, but you live and learn, right? So that's how I ended up starting to smoke rocks. He taught me how to build this little mechanism to smoke with or whatever. And I was also a bowler. I love to bowl. That's something that I love to do even now. Been bowling all my life. So I would go to the bowling alley and get in pots and things like that. So I would win the pots, use that money or whatever, So I felt like I was functional until the day I saw my face twitch. And yeah, I just remember smacking the mess out of myself and looking in the mirror and was like, what are you doing? This is not how you were raised. This is not how God created you to be. This is not it. And I remember talking to God that day, and I was like, Lord, I don't want to do this no more. If you would just take the taste out of my mouth, I promise I'll never go back. And I remember hearing Spirit speak to me and saying, you're going to have to fight. So I'm like, that's fine. I didn't realize that I was going to have to fight physically at the time. But I was like, Lord, whatever it takes. I just don't want to do this no more. So came up with a plot and plan. That day I was going bowling. It was time to bowl. I put me a little skirt on. I was like, I'm going to win me some money. I'm getting ready to start myself all over. I'm let this dude know that I don't want to be with him no more. I'm going to let him know, pack your stuff up. I'm going to take you to your mom's house. I'm done with this. And I did. Before we went bowling that night, I was like, look, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. This is not for me. And he was like, well, we bowl tonight or whatever. However the conversation got today, he was like, well, can I just go bowling tonight? Because he was on the league too. He wasn't on my team. We were both on the bowling league, in the bowling league. He was like, well, can, I just go bowling tonight and then you take me to my mama's house afterwards? And I was like, okay, that's cool. Fine, whatever, right? I don't want to argue. I just want to just get this done. Get it over with. I'm not trying to argue. I knew I had to fight, but I didn't think the fight was going to come physically or, I thought I was going to have to fight to get off the drugs and not literally fight this guy. But anyway, we went bowling that night and child, I was cute. I had me a little suede skirt on with my heels on. Got in the pots with a few guys. Most of the time I got in the pots with the guys and, we would win money or whatever out in the pots. Won me some money that night and everything, right? I bowled my butt off, y'all. I meant that. I bowled intentionally, okay, to get some money back in my pocket, start myself all over, fresh and new, get off drugs and all that good stuff. So at the end of the night, of course, he knew I won money bowling that night. So I don't know what his thoughts were, but when we left bowling, he was like, well, what we getting ready to do now? I'm like, I'm getting ready to take you to your mama's house. I meant that when I said that earlier. He was like, but I love you. And I don't remember everything in the conversation, but I do remember saying to him, yeah, well, it takes two to tumble. And I'm not willing to tumble no more. I'm done. All I remember after that, y'all, is feeling a punch come across my jaw. And I'm like, did he just hit me? I'm driving on the highway. I got my baby girls in the back seat. They're 5 and 3. My car had a blue Sunbird, bucket seat Sunbird, that my stepdad had bought me. My bonus dad had bought me at the time. And I felt that punch land on my chin. And I thought, oh my God, this dude is hitting me. On the highway, I pull over, right? I'm in the far left lane of the highway. It's raining outside. It's Mack trucks behind me. When I felt him hit me in my jaw, I turned to pull over to the side of the highway because he hit me. So I pull over, put the car in park. It's bucket seats. He grabs me. He pulls me to the middle of the seats. All I remember is that my head was in the back seat on the baby slaps. And this guy is punching me like with all his might. And all I could remember was, bitch, bitch. With every punch he landed, he called me a bitch. And I could just remember that. That's how I felt. Bitch, bitch. So I started praying. And I asked God, I said, listen, I know you said I was going to have to fight. I didn't know I was going to have to fight like this. I'm like, God, please don't let this man kill me. Please let me get my babies out of this car. God, please spare my life. I promise, Lord, if you spare my life, I promise I'll never turn away from you. I'll owe you my life. And I just remember, saying that and getting enough strength to. So he's laying on me and my arms are like this and he's on top of me. And so I can't move. But I managed to grab up, pull my arms up enough and claw him down his face. That's how I got him off of me. My babies are in the back seat, watching this happen. I remember after I clawed him, he opened up the car and got out the car. I had one of them janky ignitions where you could take the keys out of the ignition and the car would still run. My stepfather put this car together for me, y'all. So I just remembered I just didn't want to die. I wanted to get my kids out of the car. I just started praying. And so he got out the car. I managed to, actually what I did was climb. I got out the car. After he got out, I got out the car behind him. He went to go around the other side of the car to get in the driver's side. Because by this time, now he done, had me leaned over. So now I climb out the passenger side because I want to open the door to get the girls out the back seat. As I'm doing that, he comes back around the back of the car and closes the door, hitting my 5-year-old in the head with the door. I remember the girls crying and screaming, and then we just, were tussling, and he dragged me down on the side of the highway, in all of the meadow or whatever you want to call it, the mesh that's down there, the water and slime and all that crap. Dragged me down there. I had to fight my way back up, and I'm trying to grab on him because I don't want him to take off in the car with my kids. And I remember climbing up out of the ditch, opening the back door. I snatched the keys out of the ignition because I didn't want him to get into my house. Well, I was trying to prevent him from getting into my apartment. Anyway, got the girls out of the back seat. They're yelling and screaming. He takes off in the car and leave me and the girls on the side of the highway. It's like about 11:30 at night. I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I'm beat up pretty bad. I started walking down the highway, waving, trying to get anybody to stop, trying to get cars to stop. And one car stopped under the viaduct. It had to be a quarter of a mile away. I would say maybe a quarter of a mile away. And so I walked up to the car. The girls are yelling and screaming. That's all I could remember. And I could just remember telling my babies, don't cry. It's going to be okay. Mommy going to be okay. I got y'all. But I could feel my face, y'all, throbbing. Like he had beat me so bad. I felt like my eye was swollen. I could feel my face just throbbing. But I didn't know what I looked like. And so when I walked up to the car, there was a guy in the car, and he was actually a pastor. His name was Reverend Frank Jackson. He's deceased now. He was my angel that night. And I knocked on this window and I said, oh my God, Reverend Jackson, you don't know me, but I know you. Please help me. And he could see it that I had been beat up. He had got out and and he said, and I said, I explained a little bit to him about the guy jumping on me and taking off in my car. And I was like, I just need to get to the hospital. I need some help. And so he was like, well, get in the car. And he put the girls in the back seat. And he was like, before I take you to the hospital, I'm going to take you to the police station because you need to make a report on this. So all that happened, y'all. I ended up prosecuting the guy. And after that situation, I remember meeting a young lady named Mahogany. She lived in Chicago. I was just like, this is it, right? I'm coming out. I was like, I ain't going back in. I ain't trying to hear that. I have had enough. This has been enough. So I met a young lady. I cut all my hair off. At the time, I didn't have locks. I was just wearing a wrap back then. And so I was coming out. I was on my journey. I was not dealing with another man for the life of me. Do you hear me? No, ma'am. No, sir. No. I was good. And met Mahogany, and we had started talking. And then my ex-husband came back around. So this was a time, y'all. It was a process in between the time. I'll tell y'all more about that story another day. But getting more into my coming out part, they did catch him. They arrested him. The story is so much deeper. One day I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go into better details with y'all about that story because you would be amazed at what happened. But over that time, after healing, I stayed with my mom. Me and the girls moved out of the apartment because he had broken into the apartment. I wasn't comfortable there anymore. Didn't feel safe. I moved in with my mom. I needed her to help me with my kids. I needed a new change. I needed a change in life. I didn't need to go back to that same old apartment. So I ended up moving out. And then, yeah, I was coming out. I was coming out. So that was the fight that saved my life. And so I felt like, okay, it's time for me to just be me, right? It's time for me to be me, the me that I was created to be, the me that I knew myself as a little 7-year-old girl. But now in a different aspect, I'm an adult now. I can do what I want to do. I done tried this thing with men. I done had babies, and now this situation, I'm like, I'm done. I'm over it. I dated Mahogany for a couple of months. It wasn't that long. And then my ex-husband came around. And he had said that he heard about everything that happened, and he wanted to be in me and the girls' lives, and he wanted to take care of us, and he wanted his life to revolve around me and my girls, and all this other stuff. And me, stupid and vulnerable, I fall for it. I mean, he was my childhood sweetheart. I dated him 3 different times, but anyway, ended up getting married to him, and having my son. That was the greatest gift of all out of that marriage. So I don't regret that. All right, everyone, that concludes our episode for today. We hope you enjoyed it. Tune in with us weekly on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Remember to follow, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you for tuning in to Affirming Love Podcast.